We have a thought-provoking panel discussion on the topic Technology Transformation, Balancing Innovation and Responsibility. We are honored to have with us an esteemed panelists who are leaders in their field. I would like to call them upon the stage. Shri Ramesh Ranganathan, Senior Director of Enterprise Data at Management at BNY, Ms. Cheryl George, Senior Product Manager at NetApp, Shri Joydip Gupta, APAC Head at Scienaptic System, Shri Parag Mohanty, Director Manufacturing Assembly and Test, Micron Technology, Professor Pradip K. Das, Professor at Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Guwahati, as our moderator. Together, they will explore how technology advancement can be managed with responsibility. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage. Now I would like to hand over the mic to our moderator.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to use the podium. Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you have taken your breakfast. I hope all of you have taken your breakfast. Yes, comfortable? So I would wish that most of you would come in front. So we'll have a better interaction. Okay, most of you can just come up in front, most of you. So it will be a nice closeted, closed group. Okay, right? Okay, moving ahead, we have a distinguished set of panelists, and I would ask every one of you to give a quick round of applause and get the introductions through so that we can get into the the discussions quickly. Okay, please go ahead. I would like to request Shri Ramesh to introduce himself and also tell a little bit about his domain of expertise. Please.
So hello everyone, good morning. Thank you, sir, for the introduction. So my name is Ramesh Ranganathan, and first of all, I'm privileged to represent Bank of New York at this prestigious institute, right? So it's really an honor to be here. I have around 25 years of experience in the IT industry, and I started as a web developer, web application development, got into the database, and as of this current scenario, I'm working as in the enterprise data management space, okay? And what we do is basically work on multiple silos of data, taking it into the lake, and ensuring that we have a good quality of data. So that's my expertise so far, and I'll be more than happy to have an interactive session with everyone.
Thank you. And I'd like to hand over the mic to Ms. Cheryl. Let's go this way.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl George. I am a senior product manager at NetApp. We're the intelligent data infrastructure company. So what I do is essentially talk to customers to understand what are the business problems they're trying to solve, because data is proliferant everywhere. So it's on premises, in the hybrid cloud, in multi-clouds. So how do I bring intelligence to all the data you have in your infrastructure? That's what NetApp primarily operates on. I have over 22 years experience, mostly in the enterprise applications and now into storage as well. So thank you for the opportunity. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you. And I would like to give the microphone to Joydip. Please.
Thanks. I'm from a startup. I'm a partner at fintech startup in Bangalore. How many of you here, I'll make this a little interactive, I guess, yeah, because I want to learn as well in this session. How many of you here are perhaps interested in getting a job at a startup, if that's possible? Show of hands. Wow, okay. How many of you are interested in Bangalore? Okay, more hands, all right. There's flooding and a lot of traffic, but you're welcome to join the traffic and the crowd. Make it, we've all done that. So I also did my BTech at IIT from a different IIT, but so I'm probably I know how it feels like, but long time ago. We have a fintech startup. Basically, it's software as a license, so it's a SaaS product. We have an office in the US, and that's our biggest market in New York. And we have another office in Bangalore from where we serve every country outside US. So I look after that business from sales, marketing, and delivery standpoint. We have quite a few clients in India. And what they do is, it's in the credit space, so maybe I'll cover at a very high level so you don't get bored. So when somebody applies for a personal loan or a credit card or a business loan, the bank or the NBFC has to do a risk assessment of that person to determine how much to give and at what interest rate, whether should give the loan or not, and terms, etc. So that's done on our software platform. It's called a credit underwriting platform, and we have a lot of clients who license that out, and it's a SaaS product. So more than happy to talk more about that or life in a startup over the next hour or so.
Thank you. And I would like to give the microphone finally to Mr. Parag.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Parag. I represent Micron. Good morning, my fellow panelists. Good morning, my dear friends. Good to be back in campus after a long time. And I have about 23 plus of years of experience in semiconductor industry. I'll not talk much of semiconductor industry, but I'll give some news where you can correlate. For example, right now, Government of India is focusing on assembly and test in different parts of India, be it Tata, be it Micron, be it CG Power, be it many semiconductor companies want to establish their shop here in India, right? So I'll deep dive into a little bit more in that. So Micron is a company which has presence in 17 countries. It has 11 manufacturing locations where we manufacture. There are 15 customer labs. We have filed 55,000 plus patents, which is almost top 3 in the semiconductor industry. We are ranked 136 in the Fortune 500 company. The reason why I give all these statistics, because the follow conversations that I'm going to have with my panelists is based on these stats. So I look forward for all the fruitful discussions that we are going to have. So thank you very much.
With this small round of introduction, so we will start off with how possibly can we get a startup going and what is life in a startup, how things go. So I would ask you to.
So first of all, I think if you've noticed, the dressing in a startup is very different. So this is how we dress. We don't have the blazers, of course. And I think most of you are dressed that way. We have people coming in chappals also and shorts, and not just on Saturdays. I mean, unless you're meeting a client. So it's, as you know, it's very casual. But I think I'll clarify a few myths of a startup, right? And then towards the end, if you have any questions or any time in the middle, you can please ask questions. So, over the last decade, startups has been glorified a lot, okay? But 9 out of 10 startups fail, okay? And you've also seen some really large startups not do well. So there is an element of risk. Okay? Maybe at a fresher level, it's not there, because I think if you're from IIT and if something happens to your startup, then there are lots of jobs out in the market these days. But on the flip side, there is, the disruption and innovation that's happening is happening at a lot faster pace in startups, because you get the freedom and the space to pursue an opportunity much faster. Then, and I've worked in bigger companies as well, there you have to go through the process and have to get budgets and do a lot of reviews. Here, if the manager or the CEO or whoever is interested, then you get a chance to lead, right? There's also an element of wearing multiple hats. We have We are primarily in the artificial intelligence and machine learning in the banking space. So in our company, we're very small, so we don't hire a lot of people, but we hire in the space of machine learning data scientists, and in the engineering side on cloud engineers in Azure or AWS. We have hired from different IITs as well. I think obviously very smart, without needless to say. But one of the things, so there are about 95% of things that are great about IITians, right? And I can call out the other 5%. I'm going to focus more on the other 5%. Doesn't mean that that's 95%. And because I see myself, like I said, 20, 30 years ago when I went to IIT, there is a sense of privilege in a lot of IITians. मैंने बहुत पढ़ाई करी है, I cracked the JEE or GATE or whatever, and now I need to be given the best project. Okay, you will get the best project, but you'll have to also demonstrate that you are up to it. Okay, so be humble in the first year, and that's not just in a startup; it's in any company. But in a startup, the odds or the ability to go up or go out is much faster and much higher than in a large company, right, where you go through the general process. So I think we've got terrific people from various IITs, and they've done a lot of innovative work. Be ready to wear multiple hats, right? And if beyond just doing the job that you're doing at a startup, try to get exposed to the leadership team at a startup so you can really understand the journey of a startup, as Prof was asking me to talk about. There are ups and downs, and the downs are more interesting than the ups, right? So that is where you realize what leadership is like. You see your leaders perform. Sometimes we have to make the hard choice of firing somebody. Sometimes we have to change our strategy, and we have to do it quickly. Otherwise, a startup can disappear, right? So I think that's the other benefit that most freshers don't see in a startup, which is you get the exposure to see from very close proximity how leaders react to difficult situations. Yeah. So I think those are the 3-4 things that came to the top of my mind. I think as we go along, we can talk more, but I'd definitely be very curious to hear the rest of our panelists talk about kind of their journeys and a little bit about their background.
I'd like to hand over the mic to you.
Sure. I think I just wanted to talk about technology transformation too, right? I know, as Joydip just mentioned, looking at multiple hats and talking about the application development and other stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that technology is an enabler, right? It's going to solve a business problem, okay? And over the ages, what we have seen in technology transformation is that digitalization has helped ease our life, right? Ease our life, basically, right? Be it Google, for example. The reason we use Google is to search for a problem, right? If we don't know it, we search for Google, okay? Similarly, coming from a finance background, Bank of New York, right? We have seen a great technology demonstration and a transformation in the finance industry. Over the last couple of years and more than that, we have seen, how technology has evolved and helped the banking industry overall, right? So we have seen our elders going to bank for, passbook entries and other stuff, right? We have seen payments being done through checks and other stuff. But then, over the last few years, we have seen digital payments, we have seen net banking involved, and now it's mobile banking, right? And digital payments. So I think it's all solving a problem, but the business problem remains the same in the banking, which is sending money, making money, managing it, and then transferring money, right? Moving money around. So I think that business problem is important. And again, if you have to have the mindset to solve a business problem, I'm sure that, you will be able to crack it through your digitalization stuff, right? So at Bank of New York, we have the same business problems, as in how do we make e-payments easier, much faster. For example, there are some stocks that we need to kind of, settle down within a day, T+1 trading. So that's another area that we worked on recently. We have SWIFT messages, right, where bank-to-bank transactions are done through SWIFT. So that's another area that, people are working on. And the latest that we are looking at is, of course, AI that, Parag also mentioned. And the digital currency, right? What we have seen so far is the cash. And then we have seen tokenization and now digital currency, which is in terms of crypto and everything. So that's what Bank of New York is focusing on. So again, there's a lot of transformation that's going on, and it's never going to end as such, right? The journey is always going to continue, and the human nature is inquisitive. And I think we are always going to find ways of doing much things better. And again, that's where you play in a key role, where you bring ideas to the table, talk with leaders, talk with what the problems are and how we can solve it, right? That's something that I wanted to share.
See, when we talk about, some problems to be solved, some processes to be followed, so we need manpower. And at the same time, all that we do is generate a lot of data, a lot of information subsequently, and we need to store them. We need to take care of them, protect them, and also then utilize them in a proper way. So I would like to hand the microphone over to Cheryl to talk about the data part of it. So she is handling most of the data issues.
You can hear me? Okay. All right. So I work in NetApp. So historically, what has happened is decades ago, there was data silos, which means there was data in the US, there's data in India, and all independent data. And what has happened over time is from data silos, we've gone to unified architecture, which means you have multiple protocols sitting on one storage system, right? And then there was the advent of the cloud. Why is cloud so popular? Because of the flexibility, the pay as you go, only based on your consumption you're paying. So you don't have these dumb boxes sitting there where you've paid for a year, not returning any, there's no ROI at all, right? So once the cloud came about, and then there were multi-clouds. So the data has moved from just on-prem to the cloud. Now we're talking about data residing everywhere, and we have to manage that data. So again, data cannot duplicate and reside everywhere. We have to add intelligence. Now, I primarily operate in the cybersecurity space, which means we follow a NIST framework. What does the NIST framework say is you have to identify what data resides where. When I say identify, it's about classifying your data. Is it sensitive information? This is available publicly. This is only internal. So you should manage the identification part. Then you go to the discover part. So I have all this data, right? What kind of workloads do you have? Is it Oracle? Is it file share? You should be able to identify what these workloads are. Now, data is all over the place. What if one of your data goes down, right? It's impacting your productivity and business. So how do you protect that data? What kind of service level agreements you have? We talk in terms of RPO, RTO. Are you able to protect your data with zero data loss? Are you able to recover your data in no time? So all that is critical in the space of protection. So we have to think of that in the intelligence context. Okay, so once you protect your data, say there is a malicious, anomalous activity that happens, ransomware, you're hearing about that a lot these days. And it's not a matter of if it will happen to you, it's a matter of, when it will happen to you. And there's an attack happening every 7 seconds, just so you're aware. So if I protect that data, am I able to respond, alerting you, saying, okay, there's some kind of malicious activity, admin, take a look at it and block the user or block the activity. And then finally say you're not able to, respond and protect your data, or, there is this system that goes down. How are you able to recover, and how soon you're able to recover to resume your business? All that is what we think of from NetApp to ensure we have your business up and running. So that's why data is very critical for us, and intelligence to the data management is what we operate on. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to finally give the microphone to Parag.
Thank you, fellow panelists. Data covered, startup covered, finance covered. Let me cover something on semiconductor. So manufacturing, I just said, right, we are in the cusp of being China plus one strategy, meaning we are trying to, there are so many macroeconomic and microeconomic disturbances everywhere in the West, in the East, and so on and so forth. So what is government of India thinking? It's thinking that, when we went into COVID, there was a shortage of automobile delivery got delayed because there was shortage of chips for that. And it went on to pile up for a year. So what Indian potential that we see now, it's almost $30 billion of potential market that semiconductor company sees. we as a Micron, as a memory company, we are also looking into an $100 billion TAM addressable market, so total addressable market in the whole world. So what are we doing different in India? So we are setting up the manufacturing plant. I think it's in Gujarat. It's in construction phase. So what are we trying to do while the construction is? We are building the talent pipeline. For that pipeline, what are we doing? We are giving Micron grants for the people who would be selected and to those who are from impoverished society. We are enabling talent pipeline with partnership with many universities around India to make sure that the pipeline is ready for future. Believe me or not, we are a shortfall of 1 million talent pool for semiconductor industry. So we are building that up. We are partnering with various universities. We are setting up research works in the universities. We are setting up labs, clean rooms. We are providing them our problem statements and making sure that they are coming up with the impactful solutions so that we can reuse it. So these are some of the initiatives that Micron as a first mover in India that we are taking. Apart from that, it comes, I think I gave the stats, there's a lot of responsibility comes with this technical transformation. So innovation, I said we have 55,000 plus innovators sitting in the company. It comes with responsibility. Manufacturing is coming, it comes with responsibility. When I say responsibility, we are making sure that how we are reducing the climate impacts, how we are bringing, I think, diversity, equality and inclusion in our workforce, how we are trying to build the mental health, physical and social and financial well-being among the team members, how we are trying to make sure that we are responsible sourcing agency as well as responsible sales, how we are doing the code of conduct, the ethical business, how we are doing every step in innovation. For example, I'll give you very practical examples. For example, take, I think we are into memory, I'll take a product of DRAM, which is the AI conducive DRAM, meaning it tries to reduce the power consumption to 30%, which is going to go for the data centers. Data centers in the world is consuming 1% of our electricity. If I'm reducing my product to 30% of power consumption, think of the impact that I'm giving it to the Mother Earth, be it greenhouse gases, be it, for example, in manufacturing, I'll little bit focus on manufacturing side. For example, we are trying to reuse the treated water. 95% of our wastage gets recycled, and we are making sure all our manufacturing sites are into renewable solar electricity dependent. So with all this, it comes responsibility. Though we are innovating, we are getting into AI, it's an inflection point, we are tapping that market, we are getting more products, but it comes with a responsibility. How from environmental standpoint, how from social standpoint, I said DEI, code of conduct, and then community services, volunteering services, plus the governance model where we make sure that the ethical way of doing business is followed. So I think we have done good so far, but there are a lot of opportunity to do in that direction. Thank you.
Well, at this side of the stage we have been talking, I would like to invite a few questions from your side so that we can have a more interactive kind of a discussion. So queries from the audience, please, participants. A few of them we can take now.
Anybody has a question? I think you can raise your hand.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. My question is from Parag sir. Actually, you talked about how we are going to have a boom in the manufacturing of semiconductors. And actually, I'm a mechanical engineer graduate. I'm pursuing my MBA first year from here. So what are the skills that I should look for so that I can do better in future?
Glad you asked. So I'll give you manufacturing. Okay. Earlier, our focus was always on design side, Verilog, VLSI, and so on and so forth. We never thought beyond it. I mean, India has companies like AMD, NVIDIA. They are making trillions of dollars and so on and so forth. They are focusing on design side. We always dependent on manufacturing for different countries like Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore, and so on and so forth. So from mechanical standpoint, it's a very important skills that we look at. Why? Point number one. So when in manufacturing, we use lot of tools. So tester tools. So for your information, 15 to 20% of our R&D expense goes into the development of testers tools. That means which does the testing of the wafers to dies to packaging materials to chips and so on and so forth at different conditions. And that's where when we design the testers, there are mechanical elements, there are control systems, there are thermal requirements and so on and so forth. So the design side is very important in manufacturing to make sure that the productivity is increased, whereas the footprint of that design is limited, because we cannot just expand clean room because it has adverse effect on environmental and so on and so forth. So that's where I think the skill set of mechanics comes into picture, where we design our own physical tools with RPS, that means robotic process automation. I have a video in my session later when I'll talk about it. You will see so many robots are in place to do different kinds of jobs. So which needs the mechanical skill set to deploy and develop those robots in the clean room or in the factories. Yeah. I hope I answered that question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to ask Joydip, sir. Sir, every startup is based on an idea. So, what matters the most, the uniqueness of the idea or the execution of the idea?
It's a good question. I think the execution is a lot more important and challenging. See, okay, I'll tell you 3-4 things that matter, right? So first of all, the idea matters, but I see a lot of young entrepreneurs say that I woke up one morning and I saw that this was very difficult for me, and so I thought I'll solve that problem. Okay, and if they're very successful in solving that problem, then articles are written about that, and people think the next problem that I face tomorrow, I'm going to start solving it. Actually, there is, even an idea has to be thought through in different lens. Okay, so first of all, if that idea helps you, doesn't mean people will pay for that idea, right? So there has to be a revenue component. We call it a business case, right? It has to appeal to enough number of people. As Parag was saying, there is a total addressable market, right? It just cannot be a very small sliver of the population. So A, there has to be a demand for that solution. B, even if there is a demand, people have to pay for it. So if you think about a lot of the payment wallets that we have, Paytm, Google Pay, we use that a lot. I don't pay a single paisa for that, right? So payment, just the payment wallet in itself for these companies is a customer acquisition tool. And then they have to have other ways of monetizing that customer, which is making money from that customer, right? So, I mean, the idea, obviously, they lost a lot of money, all of these payment wallet companies, and they're still losing. But I hope they have a journey where they'll actually recover that and make profits. And then there is other things about idea. You have to have barriers to entry. If you have a great idea and you do a good job, people are willing to pay for it. But if Amazon and Google can come, or Microsoft can come, and or Ola or Uber can come and do that same thing very quickly within a month, then how are you going to survive? Because they have a lot more capital. So that's called barriers to entry. You're building a moat. I think people here who are studying business or MBA will appreciate that. So idea is important, but it's not just how unique is the idea. It's all of these things about the idea, right? And when VCs come and invest in you, they are going to look for all of these things. Okay? But what's more difficult and more important is the execution of the idea. Again, I will tell you what are the 4 or 5 things around execution, because otherwise it's a very big, everybody knows execution is hard. But if I think about our days when we were 2 or 3 people, to now we are about 100 people, and where we had 0 clients for the first 5 years, and in the next 5 years we have 150 clients globally. I think, so execution has 3-4 components. One is, let's say you're building a solution, right? The design of the solution, the perseverance of building out that solution. So you're not going to be successful in year 1, year 2, depending on the idea. You may not be successful for a long time in getting clients. So you have to believe in that idea. You have to have a long-term thought, vision, and you have to persevere. Right? Second is getting a team of people. Right? So you have to have an environment, a culture that attracts the top talent and, more importantly, retains them and incentivizes them to do better, right? And particularly in a startup. I mean, if you're talking about big companies with big brands, I think they have built that 20 years ago. But for a startup, that's critical. Okay? Then I think there will be more downsides than upsides in execution. Okay? Like I said, the downsides are more interesting. You learn a lot more in a downside. Every week that's very frustrating, or every quarter that's very, very frustrating, teaches you more than a nice quarter, where you're just continuing to do what you've been doing and you're getting more money for it. So I think there is the challenges, the real leadership challenges come about that. Funding crisis, you have seen ups and downs in the economy, and there are times where you're almost running out of cash. What do you do to survive? You have to shelve your long-term plans, your grand plans, and you have to survive for the next year so that you can make it to the following year and so forth, right? So I think, please, I'm happy, I'm here this weekend, so if any of you are more interested in talking in more details about the nuances of a startup, I'm here. We can also connect on LinkedIn and have more discussions. But I think there is a lot of things about execution and growth, right? And execution is not just survival. Once you're surviving, that's 10% of the job. Then you have to scale up, and that's a new series of challenges, right? Maybe the leaders in the company who are 0 to 1 leaders are different, are not the ones who can take it from 1 to 100, right? Maybe the leaders have to change, vision has to change, the people have to change. What got you there may not get you there, right? So a lot of things. Okay, I don't want to keep talking, but short answer to your question, I think they're both important. Execution is a more long-term game. Idea is a more short-term game. You don't need innovation on the idea every month or every quarter, because if the idea is good, strategy is over. Execution, you need to innovate every quarter, otherwise you're going to be history pretty soon.
I'm going to add a little. So that's from a startup point, right? So I come from a company that's been around 3 decades, right? So one thing I want you to be cognizant is not every idea is a good idea. Let's be clear there. I want you to ponder over it. What we do in product management is go through the 7 whys of questioning for yourself. Why do you want to solve for this? Who is the problem solving for? And all of that, right? While we get to the execution for a big company, there's more stakeholder buy-in that you need to, pitch this business idea to. So I think for us, the first 6 to 8 months is about talking to your manager, your management, and all of that to convince them that it's a really good idea. Only then we will get to the execution phase. So it's a slight change of dynamics from a startup versus a big company, just so you're aware. Thank you.
One thing which I can just add on to this is that everything starts with passion, but you have to regulate that passion, get the discipline into it, and then slowly take things forward, looking at the dynamics of the market, because at the end of the day, revenue has to flow. Then things, will take shape. You may actually do something very different after a few years with what you started off with. So as you said, the idea starts off, but then the survival starts after that, and then you slowly keep growing beyond.
Samsung was a grocery company. LG was a fairness cream company. So think where they start and what are they now, right? So that's how you have to adapt to the changes. Otherwise, like Nokia, like BlackBerry, you will be history, right? So you have to be on those inflection. You have to catch those inflection points. You have to make sure that your execution is tuned to that inflection, and you have to hold on to that, right? So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Joydip, and I'm a PhD student here. So my question is first, you talk about the incubation center, right? So can we use this incubation center, like, and how we can use this incubation center? Like, what is the process? How we can approach it? Second, I am from biomedical engineering background. So if I wanted to do some studies including artificial intelligence for the just like orthopedic implants, so can we avail it, or yeah, these two are my questions.
Can you just repeat the first question?
Yeah, sir was talking about the incubation center, right? So how we can use it, like what is the process, like how we can reach to the incubation centers?
Okay, good. So it's regarding the incubation center in the institute. So I would ask you to go there once, and there is a faculty in charge. Talk to him and figure out what are the modalities that are there to start off with a small startup. So there will be, you can go for an incubation company, and then there are loans which are given with 1% for a period of 3 years or more. I think you can get the details there. And then, you will be helped in pushing your product and, getting things going with 1 or 2 mentors who would be faculty members. Okay? So you check the details out, and then slowly once you become independent and the revenue flows and, you're putting the money back, and you can sort of go out and, make a proper company. Yes.
Okay,
So
thank you, sir.
that is the first aspect. And the second aspect is, I guess, more towards your area of expertise, which is the biomedical engineering and its use in AI. The best option here would be, if I may put it very lightly, your mess, where you go and eat. Talk to your friends from other departments. Find out what they are doing which is targeted towards AI, and think about your problem in the context of an AI problem. So if you look at your domain, most of the things that you do would be as a test, as an experiment, right? So you get output, you understand the logic, how it works. Can that be sort of put up in a program, or can that be taken up in a software which would possibly generate something which you wanted? A gut feeling tells you this is right, right? So
Right.
that part you should explore with your friends who are possibly from electronics, from data science, from computer science and engineering departments and other places, and then come up and see whether this is a viable thing to take up. And then things will start rolling after that. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir. Good morning, everyone. Like, sir, my question is to Jay Gupta, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, continue.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Like, about the startups, you told like out of 10, 9 are failing in doing their business in startups. Like when they are starting any startup, they're very passionate about doing it, and they will do a lot of research on it. Still, where they are lagging in, whether they don't have proper funds or whether they don't have any support from other side, or like where they are lagging, because most of the people who want to go into startup, they are very passionate and they will put all the research into it. Still, most of the startups in India are like, they are failing at the end. What is the reason for it?
Yeah, I think, see, again, another myth in a startup. Passion is just a starting point. But that's not, that's should be in the DNA. But that's not the differentiator of a good versus great startup. Like I said, so I have seen, and I also mentor some startups because I've been in startup for a long time. I see a lot of very passionate people pursuing an idea, and within 1 hour or half an hour, I can say that that may work for a while, but it's not going to scale up. So there is a lot of science that you have to apply on an idea, which is beyond passion. Like a few of the things I was saying, right? Is there enough of a demand for it, right? Is there a monetization capability? Will people pay for it? Do you have a differentiator which other people cannot copy for a long time? Okay, and do you have barriers to entry for competition? Right? If you don't have that, then you can be very passionate and do a lot of hard work, but ultimately, either it will not scale up or somebody else is going to come and defeat you in your game. Okay, so passion is a starting point, a very important starting point if you don't have passion. But entrepreneurs usually are very passionate, otherwise they'll not leave a good job in a good company and start from zero. And then I think then the tougher part, so even if you have passion and you have a good idea, I think I would say that or the absence of that is probably only 20% of the reason for failure. I think most companies fail beyond the first 1 or 2 years. I'll give you some examples, right? So if you are doing a B2B kind of product where you're selling to companies, you know a company, maybe your ex-company, who's interested in that, and your boss said, start off a solution, I'll buy it. So they buy your services. But how do you scale it up to 2, 3, 4, 5 companies? It's very hard to sell, right? Companies are going to ask, what do you have, what's your capital, how long are you going to be around, and pricing, etc., etc. So there are a lot of, there is marketing challenges, there's financial challenges, there's HR challenges, and in a lot of cases there are operational challenges as well. I think perseverance is also very important. A lot of startups, they do very well for a year and a half, and when it gets tough, after some time, you are your own boss. You don't have a boss. You don't have a founder of a company or too many of them to push you and continue to tell you what to do. And so after a while, you run out of energy as a founder or as a co-founder. I think these are some of the reasons why it fails. Of course, everybody knows why Baiju is not doing well or Paytm Bank didn't do well. I mean, those are very, very extreme things, right? Financial misappropriation, etc., etc. But I think largely startups fail because of some of these other areas.
If I may just add to this, right? This question may not be just pertinent to startups, but it's also true with organizations, big organizations, right? Any idea which you bring on the table may not be successful immediately. And then the management will always look at, the return on investment, as Cheryl just mentioned. Is that idea feasible? Is that idea even viable? Can we go to the market with that? Take, for example, AI, right? I think there's a hype cycle right now on AI, and we will definitely talk about those things. Again, the management is not going to write a blank check to you or the IT department and say, run with it. But they will continuously be evaluating each and every department on what they are delivering at the end of the day value, right? So as long as your fundamentals are clear, you're solving a business problem, you're either improving operational efficiencies, cost reductions, or improving customer experience, I think you're good, right? If you fall out of this bucket, then I don't think so you're delivering any value to the organization, be it a startup or a big organization, right? So it's not going to fly anyways. So that's something which you have to keep in mind.
Okay, so NetApp has an accelerator program, all right? So what we do is we nurture existing startups. Again, what I'm trying to get to is it needs to align to a business imperative as well. So for example, there could be hundreds of startups in Bangalore, but we're going to filter it down to maybe storage specific startups, right? And then in that storage specific startups, are you in cutting edge futuristic technology? Are you going to be a partner with us to build on certain requirements that we have? Because everything in product management boils down to build versus buy versus partnership, right? So what does that mean? So say for example, I suddenly as NetApp think, oh, I want to start innovating in the cloud, right? That train has, that ship has sailed. Why am I saying that? Because then I'm competing with the AWSs, the Azures and the GCPs. So that ship has sailed for me. So rather than building it from scratch, spending the next 2 years doing that, I might as well partner with these hyperscalers to accomplish a common goal, right? So that's the partnership space. Or I am just going to buy a startup who's catering to a specific need, which they've solved for right now, and I think that's going to enrich my business. So those are the questions you need to ask yourself, and that's exactly what the NetApp Accelerator does to nurture these startups aligning to our business goals, right? I'm not going to have a startup where I'm selling groceries because NetApp is primarily into storage on-prem and in the cloud. I am divesting my investments by putting my money there in a grocery business because I'm never going to venture out into that. So those are the questions you need to ask yourself as well. Right?
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question to Ramesh. I wanted to ask you how has digital transformation impacted DAY-1 approach to client and operational efficiency, and what role does technology play in driving this?
Thanks. So I think Bank of New York has been in the business for almost close to 200 years, right? 240 years celebrating that years. And we have seen the entire transformation, right? I mean, we were one of the first banks that actually adopted the IBM mainframe machines in the system, okay? And if we had not adapted to the new technologies, I think the transformation may not have happened, right? In the sense, we may have just lost out the business to another competitor, for example. So I think in all these things, BNY has continuously been evolving, in terms of bringing in digital technology, in bringing in the latest cloud services that we have, okay, and also AI recently. But we need to be aware of one thing, which is we are in a very regulatory space, right? Finance is very highly regulated in each of the markets that we operate. We operate in the US, we operate in Europe, APAC region and everything. So we need to be ensured that, we follow the rules and the regulations put on by the market regulators there, okay? Coming to your customer experience, we were a company which, we used to do the stock trading, we have the trading floor and other stuff where it was all manual. And since then we have moved to digital payments, right? And secondly, we move a huge amount of money. The last quarterly earnings that we had were almost like $52 trillion custody under management for us, right? So that's a huge number, 52 trillion. And then we are responsible for safekeeping that money. We cannot do that overnight with a limited amount of people, right? So that's where the digital world comes in. Secondly, we need to move it fast, right? I know India was T+1, the US and the Europe markets recently moved to T+1 settlements. We had to go with the market, right? And if we had not evolved with them, then there's a problem that we may have lost the bus, right? It would have sailed and people would have chosen a different partner to settle the trades. So I think in all those areas, from a client experience, we have ensured that we are part of the SWIFT gateway and the SWIFT payment areas, and we are evolving there. Lastly is the operational efficiency. We have a huge team which actually runs the back office operations also, right? For all of us, right, we think that when we write a check and deposit in a bank, immediately the transfer happens, but that's not the case. If I do a digital payment here, immediately the money goes to another bank account. I don't think so that happens, right? Because there's a lot of process that's involved at the back end in terms of reconciliation, in terms of integration between two departments. So I think what we have seen is that in terms of these operational efficiencies, we need to cut the manual cost a little bit, right? We have a lot of people working on these mundane tasks. They do the reconciliation manually. They still use Excel sheets and other stuff, right? It's a legacy we have built over 200 years. So as Cheryl mentioned, we have silos of databases. We have evolved with Excel sheets, then Access databases, Oracle, and now big data, correct? So I think we have data spread across a lot of places. So we are in the process where we are trying to kind of streamline everything. We are trying to build platforms within our organization where we don't have to duplicate the effort. We are trying to cut those things, right? And the digital journey has been great. Recently, even within the last 2 to 5 years, we have embarked on the AI journey. It's a startup within our organization, right? We got our new NVIDIA GPUs. We had a small hub and spoke model in the AI stuff where we kind of worked with our LOB partners. We have asset servicing, wealth management, investment management, custody business. So what we do is we have a core team of data scientists, the ones who are building, the data engineers who are building the platform, the AI platform, and then we reach out to these LOBs and say, tell me the problem that we can solve, right? Be it operations, can we bring automation through RPAs? Can we bring automation through AI? So within Bank of New York, we have chatbots, we have an ELIZA platform, which we have an inbuilt one, which kind of solves a lot of problems, like, employees asking questions for HR related issues, for customers who want to reach out and look at their portfolios. Also, we are looking at AI, which can actually do predictive analytics, where we can say where we need to put the market funds. Can we put it in this market versus this market, right? So these are some of the advantages that the digital journey has helped BNY bring and keep us in the race in the financial industry. I hope that answers the question. Correct. I think that's like, that's the regulations that come into, right? So two things. One, when we are building AI solutions, and this goes to the casino story also, right? If we can predict blackjack and what the cards coming in, I think that could play. But again, the casinos are still operating. Even the finance industry also, these AI solutions that we try to build should be kind of, ethical, and that's where, the model comes responsibly also, right? So these traders, these online platforms that are kind of promising those solutions, I don't think so that's going to solve the purpose, right? We cannot game the market, neither we can predict these kinds of options and futures where we can kind of, predict what the price could be, right? Definitely it's going to help, but again, the regulators will definitely come high on these, will put some regulations on that where these kinds of tradings, this is definitely insider trading, and again, with the reputation of Bank of New York, I'm sure we will not be, into this kind of algorithm trading where we do this to unnecessarily give unfair advantage to people, right? That's the thing I could say that, and that's what we should be avoiding doing it, okay?
So I want to add one point. So we've heard digital transformation over the decade, right? So with the advent of cloud, what happened is we were trying to get data to the cloud because there were cloud native apps trying to access this data. And if we had data on premises, there will be a latency and performance issues and all of that, right? That's how cloud operated. But right now, when we're looking at artificial intelligence, what we're trying to solve for is bringing AI to your data, all right? So that's the inverse problem that we're trying to solve. Just so you're aware, why do we need to solve for that is because what happened is there was already data silos happening, and then you have to move this data to the cloud native app. You're duplicating data, and there's a lot of data you're hosting which might not be necessary. So what we're doing with AI is bringing it back. We're trying to bring artificial intelligence to the data where it's available, just so you're aware.
Sir, I'm one of the founding member of my startup, and we are facing problem to scale our startup, our business. So what are the basic points we should keep in our mind while analyzing the scalability of the business?
Yeah.
Like a startup question, and meet Joydip backstage.
Yeah, a lot of startup questions. I'm actually very delighted I came here. But yeah, we can take some of the details. I'm happy to answer them. Well, I'll give you the short answer. So there are, I would say, 3-4 things, okay, when you're looking for seed funding. Seed funding is the first level of funding. So if you have to always think about the person who's giving you the money, what's in it for them, right? They are giving you a small amount of money. I mean, large enough for you, but compared to VCs, it's a small amount of money. They want to see that money grow by 5x or 10x over the next 5 years, and they want to take the money and go, for the most part, right? So they are looking to see if I put my money now, in 4 or 5 years' time, will a bigger VC come and put more money at a higher valuation so I can have an exit path? Okay, everybody is very selfish in this world. So really, you have to look at a 3 to 5 year horizon. First, probably the 3-4 things that I said earlier. This idea has to have a very clear demand in the market. Number 2, people should be willing to pay for that idea. Number 3, they are looking for the startup founding team or the management team. Do you have what it takes to get and succeed over the next 5 to 7 years, right? The current management team. Because otherwise, the idea is great, but if they're all fighting with each other, or you just don't see the business savviness or the business acumen, and the willingness to work hard, and also the balance, right? You need to have somebody who understands finance. You can't just have techies and CTOs, 3 CTOs running the company. You need to have a business person, etc. So they're looking at the people, they are looking at the idea, and they're also seeing whether the ingredients are there in place to take you over, kind of scale you up over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
So it's really nice to have this engaging discussion. I was wondering what you think a student, what qualities the student should have to evaluate themselves that are they ready for this technological transformation when they enter the companies or industries, or if they're starting a company. And some of you have like 2 decades or 3 decades of experience. So how was it there in the past and how has it changed right now? So what qualities do you think our engineering students, PhD scholars must strive for in their journey in this campus while they're also into joining the companies like yours or someone else?
I think all of us should answer this question. Go ahead.
Passion, I think that's one word. So in my time, maybe 25 years back, I would like to do, when that point in time, the jobs were less, the outlook was less. What I did different is I added some value proposition to my resume in terms of skill set, which was not taught in my curriculum, and that helped me in scaling my resume up. But nowadays, what we need to see is, are we up to the market understanding the skill set that industry is looking for? If not ready, we need to see, of course, through placement sales, through government bodies, there are multiple means where we need to see that are we ready for the industry to come and take us. I think it's not just, for example, in our skill set, we are looking for a mix of both electronics and computer science. It is not exactly one stream that is going to target one industry or vice versa. It is a mix of skill set that we are looking at, even in soft skills. In my time, there were not soft skills part of as an engineering graduate, but including soft skills, including differentiated skills where we can, being an electronics guy, can I program? Being a programmer, do I understand that electrical characterization of a circuit, and vice versa. So you have to keep yourself to that, the industry, what it is looking at. That's my perspective.
Yeah, so I think as Parag was talking, I was thinking about the freshers we hire in our company and what defines a good fresher from a great one, right? So 2-3 things come to mind. See, I think the basic stuff is basic IQ, which I think all of you have here. I'm just going to assume that, so I won't talk about that. Or a pedigree, which again all of you have, right? So we look at that. But that just gives you a good jumping platform. After that, you have to figure out how to float and then survive and prosper. So I think one, passion, again, he already covered that. Second thing, I think between when I graduated, which was a long time ago, and now, there is an expectation that everybody has some amount of a business savviness, okay? And I'm not just saying for startups, et cetera, et cetera. Even in Microsoft, you know, I have people who run partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. They are from engineering colleges. Back in those days, you know, you could do coding for 30 years of your life and be an excellent coder. I think now the world has changed. I think people are, when they interview you, they're thinking of, okay, does this person also know what this person is doing, whether it is testing or you know, whatever operations, how does it map to what the company is trying to do, right? The general business savviness is very, very important, okay? So whether you're an MBA student or not, it's very, very important. I think the second thing that's also very important is, see, the world is changing very fast now compared to what it was 25, 30 years ago, okay? So you could be a COBOL programmer in mainframe, and I think Prof would agree with me, and you know, you can do Y2K for 8 years and make a lot of money, or be an SAP and make $100,000 a year in the US. But now, you know, in a decade it's gone, right? AI is the big thing now, but AI is very broad. You can have AI in fintech, you can have AI in IoT, you can have the specific applications that AI is solving right now will probably not be there, or AI would have solved it, so you probably not, that the job won't exist anymore. So, so one of the things that's very important is, don't just have one single focused, you know, single track mindset. चारों तरफ देखो कि क्या और चल रहा है, right? And look at adjacencies of what you are doing, and think about the 2 or 3 adjacencies which you think in the next decade or 2 are perhaps going to be hotter, right? And keep diversifying your skill sets. This was not there 20, 25 years ago. The need wasn't there. And I think the third thing, and I'll stop after this because I'm curious to hear what other panelists have to say. When we hire people who have, you know, 0, 2, 3, 4 years of experience, I see people looking at what's hot right now and really saying, I want to do that, I want to do startups, I want to do this, that. But I only 5 out of 100 people actually have a career plan. You'll hear about that as soon as you join any company, right? There's a career path, career plan. So what does that mean? There is no templates, so what, in my mind, of a career plan. So what you have to think about is, what do you want to do 5 years from now? And it shouldn't be a specific job, because who knows, right? Or maybe what do you not want to do, right? Is finance too boring for you? Is HR too boring for you? Is sales not your cup of tea? Is sitting in coding or doing, you know, machine learning in Excel and Python not something you want to go on the field? So figure out broadly what are the areas that you don't want to do, if you know enough, and what are the sort of areas you want to do, okay? And then say ki is area mein 20 years later, you know, who are the people who are right now, you know, who I want to be 10, 20 years from now, okay? And then you say, okay, to do that, what are the skill sets I need, okay? Maybe I need people management as a skill set. Maybe I need to sell to clients, business to business clients, or maybe I need to deliver something, or customer experience. Kind of at a high level map those boxes. And then say, okay, how do I basically conquer those boxes over the next 5, 6, 7 years, so that I actually have all the skill sets I need to make whatever, CEO of a company or the head of technology, etc. So I think have at least a high level career path in mind, and then persevere on that. Don't, people bring a lot of slides when I ask them for it, and then after 3 years or 2 years when I meet them, they said, sir, अभी नहीं बाद में करेंगे. So I think you also should have the discipline to progress. Then I think nothing can stop you. You will be one out of, or five in the top 5 out of 100 people in smartly deciding your career.
Thanks, guys. So, Neeraj, I think your question was, how was it in our era, right? So, if you can't believe it, we started coding in Java in a notepad, right? I mean, there was no IDE and all those stuff for just a dot and a function. So, I think that was the era. And I think the society itself, right, was very conservative at that time also, compared to what it is today. So, I think when you guys graduate, you guys are going to be much more confident compared to how we graduated probably a couple of years ago or maybe decades ago, right? So I think that's important, having confidence. When you get into a workforce, don't look at the hierarchy structure, right? I think question the hierarchy, question the processes. I think that is another mindset if I look at the soft skills versus your technology skills. So try to ask questions as to why we are doing this, how are we going to achieve it, and what am I supposed to do, right? So I think if those questions are answered, it will go a long way to help you initially in your career itself. No, a lot of us at that era were probably hesitant to ask those questions. Probably the order used to come, we used to take it and just develop it. I don't know what the insurance underwriting agent does, but the app is fine. Even today, if you think that I'm creating a screen, I'm creating a data model, no, go beyond that, have the business acumen as he mentioned, try to answer what is actually the business problem that it's solving, and that's going to definitely help you, okay? Secondly, of course, application development is good, right? We are using all these codes, we are using again the algorithms, but try to be a creator also, right? I think creating is also equally important in today's era rather than just following. So I think by creation, it will be going a long way, just not being using a particular application as such. So I think these are 2 points that you can take it, and once you step into a career, right, have your skill set. You can have the right skills that you need for the future roles. Life is changing, the way the future roles are there, they are changing. It's much more agile these days. It's not the waterfall or the project management style, right? It's very dynamic. We are in the vulnerable and the uncertain world that we are in, right? So we cannot plan much ahead. Have those 5-year cycles or 2-year cycles in mind. See what you can achieve and then go ahead. That's my advice to you guys.
Hello. Good afternoon to all.
Let me just add my thoughts to that, and then you can ask your questions. Sorry. So, look, my honest advice is the game of life for you is just going to begin. What happens is, I see from the IITs a sense of entitlement, like Joydip highlighted, right? People in the corporate have been around forever. The first thing I want you to learn is to be humble, all right? Actively listen to what they're saying, because your objective is not to react immediately. Your objective is to respond to what is being told to you, all right? Because what happens is when you come from IIT, you feel, oh, you know it all, but the reality is the corporate is very different, okay? First thing I want you to remember is self-awareness. Catch yourself doing certain things, appropriate, inappropriate. It's not too late to correct yourself. Self-awareness. Second is self-discipline. You tell me your current self-discipline and I'll tell you how successful you're going to be in life, okay? What do I mean by self-discipline? How are you taking care of your physical health? What physical activity are you doing right now? How are you taking care of mental health? What are you reading? Tell me the books you're reading right now. I will tell you what perspective you have. How are you taking care of your mind? What are you doing? Meditating, taking time off, because working 18 hours a day is not going to make you successful. You need that downtime, so self-discipline. Third one is self-leadership. Time management falls in that because, like I said, working 18 hours is not productive. How do you manage your time? What are you doing during the day so that you can look back in the week and say, okay, I did something constructive. So these 3 things is what I want you to keep in mind. Thank you. Go ahead with the question.
Good afternoon to all. I am Siva Verma. My question is, now is the information age, how to prevent a startup from big company, because big company engulfing startup.
Can you just repeat the question once again?
Sir. And now is the information is how to prevent a startup from big company, because big company engulfing startup.
I think everybody should answer this question from here. So I think, let me just repeat the question in my own words. So you're saying, how do we protect the startup from being acquired by big companies?
Yeah, right. Sir.
Okay. So I'll make one distinction. Actually, sometimes being acquired by a big company for millions of dollars is an end goal of a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Because some of them know that I'm not going to be Bill Gates, I'm not Bill Gates, I'm not going to run my company for 40 years. I want to run it for 8 to 10 years and then get a good valuation and make it into a very sweet delicacy for a NetApp or a Microsoft or someone else, and then let them acquire. But I think the question that you are probably asking is, how do we prevent it from getting killed by a bigger company? Yeah. So you have to think about how you are building a moat or a barrier to entry for your company. Okay, it's very important, right, to do as soon as possible and say that, okay, if I'm doing extremely well 5 years from now, how do I ensure that, let's say I'm in the field of e-commerce. Amazon can actually, if they don't buy me, if I'm lucky, they'll buy me out. If I'm unlucky, they will actually build the exact same replica 10 times faster because they have 100 times more capital. And I will not have any more visitors to my website or whatever, right? Or you can talk about a software company, storage company. How do I stop Google from actually building a better software? They'll see what I'm doing. The first time I have a first customer, second customer, my product is out there in the open. They'll buy my product and reverse engineer that and build something faster. So there is this concept of building a moat or building barriers to entry around saying, okay, what can I do that protects my differentiation for a good 2 to 3 years at every point in my journey, which therefore gives me a 2 to 3 year window to innovate and go to the next step. So how do I make sure the big guys don't catch up with me and at least give me a 2 year window? The answer is different for different segments, different ideas, different solutions. I think, I can talk about my company, but I don't think that will make sense to a lot of you guys. But I think in general, that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're just hoping that luck will be in your favor and somebody will buy you out. But again, like I said, 9 out of 10 times that doesn't happen.
So, I'm talking in terms of lens used by the bigger companies, right? Those which are into capex intensive, which is capital intensive. Manufacturing is something that is very capex intensive. I don't think there are many startups which are venturing into manufacturing, but what we are making sure as a company that if you are, it's a long process for something to come out from a design to actual end product, right? So in this whole life cycle, if your startup or your idea is a differentiated idea that is bringing something value to the table, why not? We will try to, and you as a startup know that you don't have that capex intensive funding where you can compete with the bigger established players. So why not? I mean, I think most will agree that when they start there, if it gets into a bigger, like for example, Micron venture is one aspect of Micron where they figure out that if there are 300 components in a car, I mean, if you talk about the ADAS and so on and so forth, there are 300 components into a car. Is your one of the component a differentiated product and it's getting value add to the whole ecosystem, then definitely we will see an approach the startup that yes, your idea is the best in the industry, which will make both of us successful. We will definitely try to acquire it. So that's from the lens of a bigger company where the investment, the capex is very, very high. And we need to use I mean, I'm talking in billions of dollars, right? So that's not easy, but maybe software it's easy because you try and do something different and be different from the whole ecosystem. But for manufacturing and semiconductor, it's really a difficult task. Yeah, thank you.
If I understand your question correctly, so if your startup is good, if you have a great product, then again, even big organizations, right, constantly evaluate tools. Okay, build versus buy, the discussion keeps happening. And if you have a tool that satisfies our requirement, we do evaluation with others, I'm sure organizations will be willing to invest in that, right? We will buy products from you, whatever your solution is, and then we can keep partnering with it, right? Rather than going for an industry as like an Informatica or a Colibra, we can look at boutique solutions also if your product is up to the mark and it is high, as Parag also mentioned in terms of design.
Okay, let me share my part of the story from the academic side. So I started off with, I'm not an engineer myself, let me disclose here. I did my BSc and then my MSc in mathematical statistics, no computers, okay. And then I started off the journey of PhD from a university. So my background was actually zero. So what is important here is that you have to learn. You have to learn. It cannot be taught. Please remember, this is the first thing in computers. You cannot be taught. You have to acquire. So this skill, you have to dig it in the base of your brain, saying that I will have to learn, I'll go about it. Then comes your skills in terms of programming, logic development, solving problems in impossible situations where I used to have like 1 hour of CPU time every day. You have a laptop and you have 24/7 and you still say, I need more time. We used to book a slot and we used to run all the way, about a 2-kilometer run from my department to the computer center. Work for 1 hour and there will be somebody tapping on your back, get up, I have to sit now. This was the CPU time. So life was difficult, yet there were less people and the problems were more focused. So I had to solve a certain problem. Here, of course, you do one thing one day, next day another thing. All faculties will push you, you should do this, you should do that. So problems are bigger, okay. Second, self-discipline. Every one of us have 24 hours. Every one of us, including me. Are you using it properly? Are you sleeping 7 hours a day or is it 4 hours a day? Or is it none, few days? You have to make up your mind. This cannot continue forever. Once you get into a job, you'll collapse. I'm certain about it. It's a fact, you won't last long. Make sure that you are getting enough sleep so that you rejuvenate, come back and solve problems, not only for yourself, your satisfaction, but for the company. Money has to flow. Then only you will get your part of the share. It's a very simple world outside. I started off with Fortran programming, went into COBOL, Pascal, assembly of different machines, and now here I am looking at problems which through gut feeling I develop algorithms, through gut feeling. So that becomes a skill for me. What about you? Think very hard. Any kind of area that you are in, you are capable of solving problems which possibly nobody else can do it better than you. So you try to focus on what you can do, take them up in the proper perspective, and then harness it. This is a very good environment here. Use the systems, use your friends, talk to everyone around you, and develop your own skill. And of course, all faculty members are there to help you out. Check on them, look at their details, meet them, talk to them, and solve problems which is your trademark kind of solutions. And then the whole world is outside. You will find somebody is there waiting for you. Okay. So this is all about me, and you can get back to me anytime you want. I'm available 24/7 in the campus. So that is there. So any questions to me, I'll take them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, one query. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself Nishant. I have studied MS plus PhD this year So my question is that if someone want to start a startup in field of semiconductor, because it's a very capital intensive industry, but what path they have to follow or what are the skill set they have to acquire if I have to start a company in that field? Thank you, sir.
So I will try to answer the question a little bit. I'll pass it on to you because you will be the right person to talk about it. First, get your basics right. Make sure that the physics of semiconductors, how things are laid out, how they work, what is the behavior, what are the, the power consumption part of it, the efficiency part of it. These things you are aware of. Okay, just the basics. Then comes the deployment and the other things that are there. So I'll just hand over the microphone to you.
Exactly, Professor. I think you have touched the very basic thing that is very much required to somebody to scale up. It's not easy, but you need to know what differentiated idea or the product that you are trying to create and where in this, the whole chain you are bringing in the value add, right? Like for example, today, if I want to bring in an idea, it should be on what product and what would be the impact that is going to get to the customer. So you have to look from the customer eyes and lenses to see what value proposition your idea is trying to bring in to the table, right? So and for that skills, I think you will get to know from that idea that what skills is required. For example, if you are building a very basic Verilog VSDL kind of subject, then go and try to do that part for designing side, right? If you are trying to target a manufacturing, if there are tools that does into manufacturing, so what value add, what, so for example, this AI cusp of changes, if my idea is bringing in the cycle time of the production to get it reduced, yes, that's an idea. For example, if I am bringing something to the table which is reducing the environmental impact, of course, that's an idea. And for those skill sets, so you have to understand. So if you are doing tools, you need to be mechanical, thermal, layout, PCB kind of engineer. If you are into the design side, want to bring in some design new ideas, you need to be Verilog, VSDL, embedded software, and so on and so forth. So it depends on the ideas that you want to create and the value proposition that you are bringing onto the table, right? Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right, I think we should close the session now with time running out. And please discuss, I think most of us are available here, so we'll discuss through the lunch break or to the other sessions that are there. And thank you so much for being part of the discussion. Thank you.
Now I would like to call Head of CCD, Shri Lalit Mohan Pandey, to felicitate our guest. Shri Parag Mohanty, Director Manufacturing Assembly Test, Micron Technology. Shri Joydip Gupta, APAC Head at Scienaptic System. Professor Pradip K. Das, Professor at Computer Science Engineering, IIT Guwahati. Shri Ramesh Ranganathan, Senior Director and Enterprise Data Management at BNY. Ms. Cheryl George, Senior Product Manager at NetApp. A big thank you to our distinguished panelists for such a rich discussion on how we can leverage innovation while ensuring responsibility.